I want to share something with you very important. The Christian who, by his weakness, find himself in sin is not a sinner. The Christian who, by his weakness, still live in sin does not make him a sinner. Hear me. Until we understand the message of the new creation, we will be judging people wrongly. We will have a wrong perception over the Christian. We will have a wrong mentality over that person that lives in sin because of his weakness. But hear me, if you are born again and because of your weakness you found yourself in that situation, that does not make you a sinner. It's because you have not understood the message of the new creation. We see ourselves sinners when we make wrong or when we do wrong. But hear me, the man who is born again and by his weakness living in sin is not a sinner. He or she is called the carnal man or woman. Are you hearing me? Now, one is not a sinner because he sinned. Understand this. One is a sinner because of his nature, not because he sinned, but because of his nature. Because of that sinful nature, everything you do, everything you think, every step you take, your deeds, your actions, everything about you is sin because of your nature. You can't do otherwise because of your nature. Now, remember that man is a spirit. He has a soul and he lives in the body. So this physical body is not you. This physical body is your domicile. Now, when you were born again, something actually happened to your spirit. Hear me well and understand this. Something happened to your spirit, and that makes the Christian who by his weakness lives in sin different from the man who is not regenerated at all. The man who is born again is different from the man who is not regenerated at all. Why? Because when you were born again, something actually took place in your spirit. What happened? Your human nature, which makes you a sinner, your human nature, which is called the sinful nature, that causes you to do wrong. The very day you became born again, that sinful nature was supplanted and replaced with God's nature of righteousness. Listen, it is true The Bible tells us in Romans chapter 5, verse number 12, it said, wherefore as by one man sin entered into the world, and death by sin, and so death passed upon all men, for that all have sinned. So because of the high treason Adam and Eve committed in the garden, the Bible tells us that sin was passed on to all men, including the one who is yet to be born. So the prophet David said, in sin are we conceived, and in sin we were born. Hear me. But when you were born again, this sinful nature, this human nature, this sinful nature that makes you a sinner, that causes you to do wrong, this sinful nature was supplanted and replaced with God's nature of righteousness. So inside your spirit, it's not both the human nature, the sinful nature, and the nature of God. No, inside you is God's righteous nature. Because this nature of God came to replace your sinful nature the very day you became born again. And so the one who is born again and by his weakness lives in sin cannot be called a sinner, because what makes him a sinner is his nature, but that sinful nature was supplanted and replaced with God's nature of righteousness. So you can't call that man a sinner. But the man who is not yet regenerated, he still have the sinful nature in him, and so you can call that person a sinner. But the one who is born again cannot be called a sinner. Why? Because that sinful nature is supplanted and replaced with God's nature of righteousness. Now, when you read from 2 Peter chapter 1, verse number 4, the Bible tells us, it says, whereby are given precious and exceeding and precious promises, that by these we might be partakers of the divine nature. Partakers of the divine nature. What nature? The nature of God, God's righteous nature. He said, by these we might become partakers of the divine nature. And when you become born again, this is the very nature you receive. Your human nature, your sinful nature that makes you a sinner was supplanted and replaced with God's nature of righteousness. So inside you is not both the sinful nature and the nature of God. No, the nature of God, which is God's righteous nature, came to replace your sinful nature. This is the reason it is even wrong for the Christian to pray that even my righteousness is a filthy rag before God. It's an insult in the face of God. Why? Because the Bible says he made him to be sin who knew not sin, that we might become the righteousness of God. So when we became born again, you receive God's nature of righteousness into you. I just quoted 2 Peter 1 verse 4. He said we are partakers of the divine nature. So the Christian who by his weakness live in sin is not a sinner. Understand this. God bless you. Shalom. You will